The present situation is based on the UN, the foreign envoys and various sections of the public have expressed certain concerns that the controversy in Sri Lanka should be resolved constitutionally as well as democratically. Now all this is well and good, but the fact is that the Speaker also met these same gentlemen and urged them to reconvene Parliament and resolve the issue on the basis of a majority decision in Parliament. The controversy arises from the fact that the President is directly elected by the people and responsible for the executive powers of the people. He is also responsible to Parliament. So the question boils down to a very simple fact of whether the President's responsibilities are to the people or to Parliament. And that issue is resolved by the Constitution. For instance, the Parliament, the legislative powers of the people are exercised by Parliament, and the executive powers of the people are exercised by the President, directly elected by the people. The President is a head of state, of the executive, and of the government. President shall be head of the Cabinet of Ministers as well. The Cabinet of Ministers shall be charged with the direction and control of the government of the Republic. The President shall appoint a Prime Minister, the members of Parliament who in the President's opinion is most likely to command the confidence of Parliament. With the withdrawal of one of the parties of the national government, there was a constitutional requirement to reconstitute the executive with a new Prime Minister and a new Cabinet of Ministers. This is what precipitated the current situation. The constitutional provisions presented above, which I enunciated earlier, requires the President, the powers of the people who, as a head of the government and Cabinet of Ministers, to appoint a Prime Minister who, in his opinion, is ideologically more compatible with his ideology as to the direction and control of the government, so that he can fulfill his responsibilities and obligations in regard to the executive powers of the people. Now, what precipitated all this was, over the 3 years, there was a build-up of sentiments where there was a considerable divergence of the ideologies between the Prime Minister, the earlier Prime Minister, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, and the President. This came to a head recently in the Cabinet with regard to a particular allocation of an asset of Sri Lanka. In the meantime, there were also other assets which were being negotiated, and attempts were made to hand it over to various foreign countries and parties. This controversy between the ideologies of the two people precipitated this, and he chose a person whose ideology is compatible with that of the President, so that he could fulfill his responsibilities to the people. The issue is that this does not mean that the President and the Prime Minister and his party has to have a majority under the presidential system of government. A minority government and a president can garner the support of the Parliament with regard to specific issues. A classic example of this was in 2012, the the government of the UNP, which had only 42 members in Parliament, was able to garner the support of Parliament and pass the 19th Amendment with nearly almost a unanimous decision, except for our Honourable Admiral, who is seated here, who opposed the thing. So, although you are a minority government, it doesn't mean that the executive ceases to exist. It can carry on, it can fulfill several functions, except for certain instances. So therefore, the Prime Minister really becomes a nominee of the President, whose task is primarily to garner the support of Parliament with regard to legislation. So the concept that a majority of Parliament, or one person enjoys the majority of Parliament, has no bearing whatsoever on the operation of the executive.